Welcome to Jackson Reviews, the channel where I go through the best and worst horror movies so you don't have to. I'm Sam Jackson. Today, about a month after I should have done it, because I just spent way too much time with the Friday movies, I'm finally reviewing the first Cloverfield, released in 2008. The first film in J.J. Abrams' weird anthology space universe thing. Cloverfield is easily the most horror film out of this series, and I know it sounds weird since it's a horror trilogy, soon to be like so many more, but it is the most horror one. The second movie in this series is obviously a lot more thriller, kind of psychological, whilst the third one is very much sci-fi over horror and just kind of crap. And apparently the new film Overlord's going to be a zombie movie, so it's obviously going to be some kind of splatterfest and quite gory, because if zombie films didn't have gore, then they'd be a lot shittier than they are. The original sticks to the tried and true horror method, and obviously since it was made in 2008, just after Paranormal Activity, it's a found footage movie. The rumour has it that the main reason for this is that they kind of wanted to see what would happen with a found footage movie on such a huge budget, and I think it worked out quite well. Honestly, there's only 3 found footage movies I would openly say I enjoy. There's only this one that I would honestly say I enjoy, along with Grave Encounters and Alien Abduction and Instant Lake Country, and its sort of remake that came out in 2016. But honestly, let's just have a look at this and see if the gamble actually paid off. The movie begins with some weird US government shit mentioning that this camera was found in an area formerly known as Central Park, leaving a lot of questions open for the movie's audience. Before we can get to the badass parts, we have to get through some more boring exposition scenes, and it's so crap I apologise in advance. We get the usual character introductions, but now it's in a found footage style in April, with main protagonist Rob and his possible girlfriend Beth. They get some bonding, so we care about these characters and they go to Coney Island. Weird cut 1 month later to Rob's brother Jason and his girlfriend Lily, who's also played Olivia in the Evil Dead remake. The more you know. They discuss organising a send-off for Rob because he's moving to Japan, and we meet Hood, played by TJ Miller. More weird jump cuts later and we're at a party, and TJ focuses on another character, Melina. He tries to chat her up, which doesn't go well. Rob comes to the party, Beth appears with a new boyfriend Travis, drama occurs, then suddenly earthquake! Which, from the Cloverfield paradox, we now know was caused by an interdimensional tear or something. Ah well. The earthquake causes the characters to panic, obviously, and this huge explosion goes off in the distance, leading to firebombs crashing all over the city. The group evacuate the building, and we get the most amazing shot in the film, with a Statue of Liberty's head being thrown at the group. Clover appears for a brief cameo, and his first ever appearance in this franchise. Then he decides that the Empire State Building needs its own version of 9/11. The group hide in a convenience store, which doesn't go too well, and then head outside into some truly emotional imagery. Honestly, it takes a lot for a movie to hit me in the feels, but this entire thing, just remembering seeing recaps of the news footage and stuff like that, it's very cleverly done, and kudos to the filmmakers. The group tries to figure out what they saw, and we see some very dark, dramatic footage of the devastation until Jason is dragged away by a crowd, and crushed when Clover decides to say hello. The group react to Jason's death, that when Rob and Hood run inside the news store or whatever, they see what's going on and get the first film's real good look at Clover. He drops off some smaller Clovey babies, and we find out that Beth is trapped and needs help. Apart from Rob, everyone else isn't too happy with this idea, but they all decide to go and save her. Clover and the army appear for a little cameo, and the group hide in the subway. We get a really solid character moment where Rob's mum calls him and he tells her about Jason's death, as well as some bonding within the group. The 4 head into the tunnels to get to Beth and discuss what Clover could actually be. When the part of the movie becomes way more horror than disaster from this point on, just a fair heads up. Clover's babies start infesting the tunnel, following the group and biting Melina. They head inside a maintenance room where we get another nice moment between the characters, and they head outside to see a strange bright light. Melina's condition deteriorates throughout this entire scene, and the group are picked up by the army and brought to a trauma centre, which was the source of the light. After her eyes start bleeding, Melina is taken away by some doctors and she explodes due to the bite mark. The 3 are told by a soldier that Manhattan is close to being destroyed, and they set off to find Beth. We get some more awesome disturbing shots and find out that Beth's apartment has been partially knocked over. They figure out how to get to Beth's apartment by using the other building, where we get this really cool but honestly terrified me scene where they have to climb over the top of the partially fallen building, and for someone who has a massive fear of heights, this entire scene just took it out of me. Thanks J.J. Abrams. They find a very wounded Beth and they free her from her impalement, and Clover makes another couple of cameos as they get inside the stable building, where one of Clover's babies also makes the cameo. Now with Beth in tow, the 4 head to the last helicopter, Lily gets on board and escapes, then Beth and Rob make up. The 3 get onto the next helicopter, which Clover isn't a fan of as he lunges at the chopper, causing it to crash. It crash lands in Central Park, hint hint. We get a really good tense moment where the camera is static and no one's visible, and they also get warned that they've got 50 minutes to escape before a nuclear attack kills them. Rob is badly wounded, then Clover makes his proper appearance this time right next to the characters, and he eats half of Hood before leaving. In an act of respect, Rob takes a camera as the final two take shelter under the Central Park Bridge, recording their last will and testament as siren bombs go off. The two confess their love for each other before dying in the blasts, and then the camera cuts back to the two on the date a month prior. We see something in the distance falling from the sky before the camera runs out of battery, and we get a cool end credit moment where it sounds like someone saying help us, but if you actually play it in reverse, it reveals that the creature's still alive. Then that's it. Honestly, I love this film. Like, I'd seen the sequel, 10 Cloverfield Lane, before I watched this one, and I never really thought to watch it because at the time I wasn't the biggest fan of kaiju movies and I wasn't too fussed about found footage stuff, but then slowly I kind of developed into both genres and now I'm a massive fan of like Godzilla and King Kong, and I'm so looking forward to that crossover. I know it's a remake of no crossover, but whatever. But with this movie, like, just the fact that its found footageness doesn't actually cause any issues and it makes a lot of sense. Like, throughout the whole thing, Hood's trying to basically say, I'm documenting this because he wants to get famous, he wants to get known. And even though it's weird to admit, there are a lot of people in modern day society who would generally risk their lives to get a story out there so they'd get famous and money. I mean, honestly, isn't that basically what news reporters do at the end of the day? I also like the characters, every single one of like the main 6 characters. They're quite developed. Even Marlene, who's probably the least main of those lot, I really enjoyed her character as well, and I was really sad when she was like killed off so early on in such a horrible way. I'm honestly surprised, seeing the film's budget of only 25 mil, how good the CGI still stands today 10 years later. Like, it's very impressive, and there's a couple of times where you can tell it's a little bit green screeny, but nothing that's too in your face. And Clover's design still looks awesome to this day, which is, it's kind of a testament to how well they made this. The film's entire tone as well, throughout the whole thing, being very dark, gloomy and emotional, and even though it's very fantasy based, with like literally a giant alien that spews more tiny aliens that kill and massacre people, just some of the imagery, especially with it being set in New York, it relates so much to 9/11 and so many other like disasters that have happened in the world, and when it tries to hit those emotional cues, it fucking delivers, and I have to massively compliment them for that. The overall writing as well, I enjoyed, just for storyline, because when I first like thought of the film, I was either worried it was going to have way too much storyline, which doesn't work for found footage movies, or way too little, which seems to be the common trend in the films. With this one, it had the just right amount. It was just showing them and documenting them trying to escape and trying to live and trying to find Beth. And if they did too much, it would have just made it seem a little bit too Hollywood, but if it did too little, it would have made it seem too indie. And they kind of struck a really good balance with it, and I have to massively praise them for that. As well as a great cinematography, being sometimes it'll have very professional shots which seem professional, but on, like, the camera will be slightly slanted to show it's amateur. And it doesn't focus too much on what the audience wants to see. I've kind of noticed this. The audience wants to see Clover every 10 seconds just massacring and destroying the world, but that's not what this movie's for. This movie's for the human elements. If you want to watch that, watch the 90s Godzilla movie, or don't. But with this film, it shows how people would actually react. You wouldn't just stand there whilst a giant monster you wouldn't just stand there with a video camera whilst a giant monster's attacking and just go, oh, this is neat. You'd fucking run, of course you would. For the 5 fun facts though, most of the camera work was done by a man called Robert Altman, who's worked as a cameraman for many other films, but in an interview, TJ Miller did reveal that he filmed around about a third of all the scenes that were shot, and about half of them ended up in the final product. And they basically did this just so it was a bit more authentic, like with scenes where he'd literally turn the camera on himself, they wouldn't work otherwise, and it'd just look a little bit weird. And I kind of liked the fact that with so many other found footage movies, they don't do that. With this one, they kind of tried, and I think it succeeded. And despite not actually involving Warner Brothers at all for its production or distribution, a lot of the time Warner Brothers' name is dropped in. They basically asked a few favours from the company, were able to use their backlot for some of the filming, and in return, they just kind of did a little bit of promotion for them by mentioning the Time Warner building, which is where Beth lives or something. Continuing with the found footage legacy that the Blair Witch Project left behind, Paramount decided to go with a much more viral marketing campaign similar to Blair Witch did, and honestly I think it paid off, but there was some skepticism for this, even though it did eventually pay off. Due to the found footage nature of the film as well, there was no score prepared. There was only one original kind of score song, and that was played over the end credits, and it was called Raw, and it's depressing and very intriguing to listen to, and I honestly kind of enjoyed it. With the original marketing as well focusing that this was possibly happening on a global scale, there was a Japanese manga that was created. It was basically a girl in Japan who has a connection to Clover and some weird company or something, and at the end of it, apparently Clover did appear for a couple of cameos and Massacre or whatever. But I'm honestly just glad to see that it kind of spread, because Clover's cool. Love me some Clover. He was the only positive thing I had about the Cloverfield Paradox review. But overall, if I'd say I actually enjoyed this film, hell to the yes. Like, I love 10 Cloverfield Lane just for a lot of the stuff, even if its ending's a little bit iffy. And I really hate the Cloverfield Paradox. But with this film, it's exactly what you'd want from a much bigger budget found footage movie, because it's violent, it's horror, it's disturbing, and it's emotional, and the ending saddens me a lot, but I'm glad at least Lily got away. So at least one character was able to survive out of the main 6, and that's always a positive in a horror movie. But now, thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry that this took me a month to do. On Saturday, I'm going to have 10 Cloverfield Lane be released. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on Saturday. Goodbye.